Welcome back. We go to the final map between these two teams. We're just playing for fun, so I guess let's go into this feeling, fairly chill. As regardless of the score, Dream Chasers have qualified for the playoffs, which will be happening in about 3 weeks' time. Who they're playing? No idea just yet. We don't even know the seeding of the two teams that have qualified, Worst Players and Dream Chasers. It is shocking that HypHypHyp have not qualified, considered, at least by me and a few others, of a top 5 team in the EU scene at the moment. Not qualifying for a tournament against a bunch of relative no-names. We expected things to be quite surprising, maybe not to this level. But now it's just playing out for glory. Hip are going to be attacking first. We are going to play out the day. There's not going to be any forfeits. There's not going to be any giving up. Just going to play this through, regardless. Great way for HypHypHyp to practice some strategies and stuff. But I gotta say, players like Cree looking really solid. Like, I'm definitely going to have to watch back that Hyp versus Worst Players game that ended up happening. To lose 2-0 like that is very surprising as we go to the third best of 3. Saj's just holding very passive. Has a good inkling that the spike is there, as there's only going to be one alive now, which is going to be Petty's Skull. It's going to make a nice clump as he hits the ground. He can pick up the spike and now plant it, but saw the trailing body of the Breach, who hasn't pushed out just yet, isn't sure that there's somebody on this left-hand side, so they're going to have a nice double peek, and King Cobra is just going to make sure that that's covered. My name is Ryan Central, by the way. Thank you very much for tuning in to the EPULZE Valorant Prodigies tournament, Day 1, Group A. Like I mentioned, Worst Players, Dream Chasers, first to qualify. Hyp, even though they're still playing right now, have no way to qualify for the playoffs, even if they win this game. That's to do with map differentials, how many games, and maps total that Hyp's team have given up in comparison to the other two teams that I just mentioned that did qualify. Godsend, unfortunately, was 0-3. It didn't look like they were on the same level as some of the other competition, but other than that, very close between the lineups of the teams. Hyp is trying to do something with a classic, but they're so low themselves that that's going to be awkward to do. It's just going to be Creed that's on this B side, but the majority of the rest are going to possibly rotate to A. At least it looks that way. See how Zaj responds now that he's playing on the Breach. Of course, we saw an exhausting game, to say the least, against Worst Players and Dream Chasers on this side, with Worst Players having a 9-3 advantage and losing 13-10. Awkward, to say the least. Been a great day though. A couple of hiccups here and there. Me, for example, should not be casting this late. Doing 3 best of 3s in one day is a lot, but it's been super cool to see so much good Valorant. It'd be exhausting if they were all blowout 2-0s, right? But the fact that these are very close games and exciting to watch makes this all worthwhile. The site is looking to be planted and hit on, but Emilio, with the Spectre from distance, is able to get something, but Law is able to trade. He's just going to grab his gun. Kicker's going to be chasing up Cops and Robbers style. So the last remaining members of this defense are on this tap, but that's a great kill from Kicker. It's only fair off left now that still only has hold of the Ghost. Time is very much not on the side of Kicker that's now trying to rotate around. Has to check every angle, isn't sure where to expect the last member, but that satchel kill is going to be nice. Fair off not even needed to use the gun. Able to get a nice pick, and side is reset just before the spike is deployed, meaning that no deaths are going to happen there. You can tell that my voice is breaking as I'm doing this, but We have even more games tomorrow with Fish 123. We have... try to remember this off the top of my head. Trying to remember who's in that group. Fish 123 is obviously a firm favourite. Absolute Legends is going to be there. As well as Valorant, both of which have won tournaments within the past couple of weeks. And we will be joined by Fordon Bears that have come in to replace Trauma, who could no longer participate, may not even be playing together anymore. Not sure, in all honesty, but they're going to be the 4 teams that we watch today, and only 2 of them will qualify alongside West players and the Dream Chasers, who we've been following for the majority of the day so far. With all our luck, we're probably going to get a very close game, I feel, between these 2 teams. Law has been a staggering individual to follow. Is making Dream Chaser's life a living hell and is going to wall off Heaven, but didn't necessarily work. The double take on Tizaj is luckily beneficial there, but Law is trying to fight an engagement against where the Raze is there, but King Cobra is the last one alive, but the Sheriff might try and take a gun and get a kill, and that's a nice shot to fear off. Can't do too much about Petty Skell, and the rest of the attackers that were rotating around. Yep, trying to build up a bit of a lead. But I'm not even sure they know themselves that they're not playing for too much right now. Really hard to say. Our maths could even be wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, talking to production, that is very much the case, that there's no way for them to qualify now. Have to double check for certain, but quite inclined to believe that they're done and out right now. Push through coming now from Hip, that's giving himself a lot away, doesn't necessarily know where the defenders are holding now. You do see an ultimate being dedicated, but it's going to be the showstopper that just narrowly hits Emilio. King Cobra could respond with their own, and that one is a lot more potent and a lot more lethal. believe we're back. Excuse me for being quiet for so long. Obviously there is a 2-minute delay, so let this game play out normally. To make sure the stream, nothing was going necessarily wrong on this side, but I can update you currently on what's going on. These are the scores in which they stand. Now we'll start to see if get a couple, but looking like they might lose this round as there's only Petty Skull left, who is towards mid and pushing towards B, which is where the spike is, but heavily guarded to say the least.
You will not kill my allies.
Now it's made even worse with a 1 versus 5 just to save up a bit on DreamChase's economy. Petty Skull, the best that they can afford to do is to survive, maybe get a frag to catch on out. Gets 2. Nice lineup, but risky to say the least. The rest of this team is gonna flank, but Emilio, operator, what would you expect? Puts the DreamChasers 5-4 up, as both these teams are taking rounds off each other, which most certainly on split you don't expect to see, certainly after the worst players DreamChasers game, excuse me, that we had earlier. Thank you for staying with us through the technical issues there too. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully you've been enjoying the games. They've been certainly dramatic. It's hard to give them the hype that they deserve just as a guy solo casting, but it's been a nice, peaceful vibe, I suppose. Chaotic games. Rolling Thunder is going to be a lineup on this defense, but he aren't pushing on. I think the flashbang is going to be a good indication to use it and line it up. Kriya is in this mail room. There are currently 2 people watching that direction. One of which is going to be King Cobra. Is it looking too far away? But they are providing a lot more attention than you probably would expect. And Fearoff is going to check every single corner going through B. As Emilio does get a kill onto Petty Skull, who is certainly baiting on A, and Kriya comes out, gets 1, wants to line up a second, but is looking in the right direction. Survives just by jumping. Skipping out of there, but it's above him. Kicker is there, taken down luckily by Fearoff, so Kriya's safe for the time being. Speaking of safe, able to get 1, and Rolling Thunder's gonna catch him. Narrowly misses him. And he's gonna bounce into where the spike potentially would be planted. And Emilio is just making sure that there's no rotation, not giving himself up just yet. Spike needs to be planted relatively soon, but Emilio isn't really helping Safe, who is in a forced 1 versus 2. Now Emilio's the last one alive with the operator. Spike gets planted, and they could just choose not to take these engagements. He'll coming in and picking up the Phantom instead. See, I'll lean it towards, and yeah, a bit of a misstep it feels like. In some places, at least, from DreamChasers. They pick a 5-all up. Really feels like it's going the distance, but this match feels very slow. Certainly in comparison to some of the other rounds that we've had, but these have been very long games to say the least. Teleport coming in nicely from Crave. Really liking these Omen plays, and showing what can be done on this agent that often doesn't get too much love. He's now in a forced 1 versus 2, and they have a rough inkling that he is holding there. King Cobra's going to back off, both of which are kind of going to back off, but maybe Kika isn't well aware that he's in the sightline of Korea, at least to an extent. Does have the backing of Hip, who's going to help clear that one up, as B-site is going to be hit fairly fast and fairly hard. Zadish has the Rolling Thunder, wants to line it up nicely. He's going to do that, but see if King Cobra can respond to sort of get a pick. And the second roll, just narrowly, King Cobra can't get that frag. Showstopper's fired out by Fearoff, but doesn't catch on to anybody. Boombot is going to be fired through, and it is going to take a chunk out of Emilio, who could just heal themselves up, but that Aftershock is going to force a push. Emilio can take it from Hip, though. They're down to 17 health. And the healers are going to be used, or useful, for any time. So Fearoff can pull back a little, play for time, and is able to get the pick onto Hip. Emilio, sorry. Last round of this half. Last round swap. The end of today. And even now, there's still so little to decide between both these teams. No advantage being made just yet. Attack hasn't dedicated too far yet. I'll play from HypHypHyp to just take a few spaces and a few stages, but have a good inkling now of where most people are, to the point that it's going to be a very aggressive push coming on through Heaven. King Cobra dies. Kika does kill Kriya. Kika is going to be using Neural Theft and knows that pretty much everybody's on their site. His position to an extent is also giving up. A lot of watching Heaven. And Fearoff is just keeping an eye of where it could be seen, but nobody spots Kika pushing through yet. Who gets free? The defuse coming in, that was impeccable play from Kika. People just didn't predict that he was going to come from that angle. Just forgot that he was somebody that they should be afraid of. As we go into halftime, the scores are going to be completely level. Very little to separate these two teams. Even the kills, like, not looking too dissimilar. Much like the maps before, we didn't see anybody pull ahead. Law, we had such a good game on Haven, was very much the lead fragger. Still just sort of pulling our weight. Crazy game to end the day on. It's a shame that all of this ultimately doesn't matter all that much. Now Dream Chasers is going to push through. There's 4 health. The safest now. Isn't an awful lot more to take, but they need to be careful behind him. That's exactly what Fearoff is going to be holding on a pixel perfect angle. He's going to try and fight Emilio and does kill him. I wasn't expecting Zadish to be that close, but still, nevertheless gets the kill. The last 2 members on this attack of Dream Chasers are on the site. Emmett's safe. King Cobra is holding towards the screens area where a couple of people are pushing through aggressively. Kree is able to sort of clear up the rest. The diffuser is going to come in and give Hip the lead once again. Would expect that a buy of sorts will come through from the defenders, and currently see Dream Chasers holding on to whatever money that they have and buying very little at least. Make sure that they can afford next for the big round and try and play from nil on out. We'll decide between these teams, but the mid push is going to come in. Emilio's going to take some damage from the paint shell, but is it going to be enough to scare them too much at least? But being a member down isn't great. King Cobra is holding on to the Sheriff. Will take some damage from the satchel's been thrown out. By Fairofter is holding on top of this Sage wall. The rest of the attackers have backed out a little bit at least. Does it remain? Kika's going to lead the line towards A. Scout out any info and intel that he can grab. Kriya is there. Clearly didn't spot the spy cam, but is going to be first contact on this engagement with all 4 of the attackers holding through, but that smoke is going to give away that they're pushing there. The paranoid does hit, but doesn't hit everybody, so now Kriya's in an awkward spot. Does get the kill onto Kicker and onto Safe. Clean. Kriya able to sort of finish that up. Didn't need any more than the pistol. Puts his team 8-6 up. Long now back on top when it comes to frags, but really enjoying watching Kriya play. On an agent that you don't typically see a lot of people give too much notice for, but might work out nicely. I believe it is going to be actually King Cobra top fragging in the server thus far. Sending out the boom bot. Try and scout out anybody that may be holding close, but that's not really happening. It's more towards mid that people holding aggressively, and Emilio's going to punish that. Wall does come through, but they're just going to break it down. It's going to be fairly easy, and either get the kill onto Law that tries to do the whole stand on top of the wall trick. Mid is completely open. It'll be interesting to see whether we see HypHypHyp rotate or change at all. How they're holding. So far so good on this defense, but losing 2 people like that isn't ideal. Kriya wants to push further, but is going to get tripped up by the tripwire. It seems that B is going to be hit relatively hard and relatively late. One way is great from Petty Skell, that's able to get quite a lot of intel. Now has to hold awkwardly because of the slow, but is going to run into Zadish, who's managed to skirt his way around fairly quickly on this attack. Safe kills Hip. Now only going to be Kriya left on this defense, but gets one. Positioning given up. It's behind him as well, he needs to be careful of. You'll see the cap of Kick and a beautiful shot. Takes a bit of damage as the wall gets broken down, but only so much they can do, and Safe is there too to lend a helping hand. Using Emilio as bait, and just as we start to see HypHypHyp start to build a lead, it's lost again. Wouldn't surprise me to see this go all the way to an overtime. As we get into hour 9 of being live, of course, there's been a few technical difficulties that's cut us off now and again, but I'm looking at my OBS and I can see 8 hours and 57 minutes on the clock. I'd say more than 3/4 of that I've been casting. We had a long break after the Godsend Dream Chasers game, but the last 2 games have been down to the wire. Best of 3s. Defense is slow. Can afford to be. They've got a pick. It forces Dream Chasers to slow down their play just a little bit. Do have Orbital Strike. It's how they're going to use it. It's going to tip the balance, but they need to be careful here. His Kicker's pushing very aggressively towards Heaven. Has the spikes. If he dies here, they could lose the key to their game in awkward fashion. Kree is holding a nice off angle. Gets free, and Hip is going to clear up flawless. Really like this defense. I wish we saw more of this version of HypHypHyp. that version would have qualified. That's not me being hyperbolic and assuming that this game is over, but regardless of the result, standings mean that there's no way for HypHypHyp to qualify even if they win on split. Which is a crying shame because they look like a good team at the best of times. Just going to play as much as possible. His ultimate's now available on this attacking side. Only one on the defense. Korea will find a clever way to use it. He's been great so far to watch, but you need to be careful where Hip is holding. The orbital strike is going to be used to open up a bit of space, and weren't expecting Hip to be holding on the angle. The wide flank from Emilio is going to catch him, but Faroff is going to clear up the rest. Now this lead is starting to build for HypHypHyp. 3 rounds away from winning on split. An orbital strike did create a bit of space on the Dream Chasers, but not enough that really concerned HypHypHyp, who now have 3 ults of their own. A is looking to be hit hard though by the looks of things. Trying to maybe get some pretty good lineups. Showstopper available for King Cobra. It's no longer leading in terms of frags. It's going to be Kree. And whilst this tournament is going to be over from HypHypHyp after this game, really I'm excited to see more of them. There's potential there. A bit rough around the edges maybe, but start to see why people value them so highly in this lineup. Faroff is getting a kill onto Zadish. Just towards mid, but of course we're looking towards A where the spike is. That rolling thunder is going to come in all the way from Hip, but Emilio is able to get that frag. He's going to slow towards screens. That is actually going to be where the raise is. Korea is going to teleport and rotate to keep an eye there, but safe. Able to get it. Now there's only going to be one alive. Faroff is low. He's going to run very quickly into Safe, who's going to put that one to bed. The score is now going to be 10-8. HypHypHyp still in the lead, but Dream Chasers are not far behind. If they can get some momentum together, they might be able to take a few more rounds and really make this go all the way. Win conditions on either side starting to loom more on the horizon. Very aggressively pushing on this defense is going to run into King Cobra in just a second if they pick this awkward angle. King Cobra now has an inkling that the Omen is there. He's going to back up wisely. Paranoia gives away the positioning a little bit too much, but that space they had has been given away to an extent for the attackers. That is just going to line up a fault line, but Korea isn't hit by it. It's going to hold really close. That flashbang is good. Flashpoint is able to catch Emilio. Korea gets stuck in the slow, but can teleport out. Might not be hit, but the Rolling Thunder is actually going to come in towards mid, and Zadish is able to push through. Petty Skell is there, backs off, and knows that a couple of them have hopped down, and nobody's necessarily looking, but now they are because the shots were mixed up. And King Cobra is trying to survive off Faroff, who's the last one alive. It's a 1v1 now. Faroff is with the operator. Spike isn't planted, so this is a big ask for Kicker, who is actually going to go follow up a little bit. Faroff won't know that the spike is planted there, but that's a corpse that Neural Theft can be used on, and the position is actually given up by Faroff. All they need to do is play for time. That's something the Kicker will know, has to try and plant the spike. I don't think it's possible at this point. In fact, that's going to slow him down a little bit more. It's good. No, it's not enough time, so Faroff just needs to survive, and messy round to say the least, but Faroff coming in to the rescue there with a pretty strong showstopper. 2 more rounds left for HypHypHyp to try and grab. Frags. Inflated certainly on the side of Hip with the lead that they have, of course. Time was not on their side. But another big round where guns are bought. Bearoff isn't necessarily sure that the safe is there. He's going to use the stim pack and uses the molly. He's going to take a few chunks of damage from the paint shells, but not too much. Kree is holding, and Safe does get a kill. Fine one onto ramp, which is where the Raze was holding on this defense. Sephiroth is out, and that was the operator too. Petty Scale is all alone on this B site, and there's very little going on. That might change up, but it seems that the dedication to the rotation, that's a big clump actually noise that they made. And Kree is gonna rotate away from this site, even though that might be where stuff's going on. He's more scared about mid, but of course, as we can see, there's still a lot more to be done. Heal coming in. Could even bring the Resurrect in if they want to bring back their fallen player on this attack, but are they going to dedicate to that? They seem so uncertain. Emilio trying to line up some slow orb, and that orbital strike is going to provide a bit of an entrance. Korea is going to try and smoke the site, or teleport into it actually, just as the wall goes up, so in the nick of time, you might not necessarily be expecting that. He's trying to catch him out, misses the shot. King Cobra is on this site with the rest of the team all clumped up together, but they now know exactly where Petty Scale is. And Safe manages to get the kill before the rest of those pit shells are smoked in, but attackers now win, and Safe, that's his 4th kill. Opened up a game a little bit more. 11-9, even now going the full distance on this, on a map that is very much a bit one-sided in some cases. It's not looking that way for either of these teams. You consider this to be a quarterfinal, a semi-final almost, with how close this is going, but no, this is just a show match at this point. Very little to play for. It would be a pretty big knock to confidence if you're Dream Chasers and you lose this. Knowing that you lost to a team that didn't qualify and you did. Not necessarily the kind of attitude you want to be going into a very competitive quarterfinals, which is what they will be jumping into. Be running into an assortment of different teams. Royals, Fish 123, Prodigy, Avengers, Ninjas in Pajamas. How do this team stand up against them? Worst players beat Hip earlier, and Dream Chasers beat worst players. Would literally be full circle if we then saw HypHypHyp beating the guys of Dream Chasers. It'd be the first time we'd seen them lose today. He just backs off, slipping away, but can only barely even get a kill when he's spraying down that many people themselves. Plant's gonna come in. King Cobra gets a nice pick onto Law. It's gonna be Petty Skull. Fear of trying to do stuff on this defense. There's only 2 of them now. Against the full 5 of the Dream Chasers that are now only going to be 1 round behind. But for which are going to save their guns. In regards to economy, how is it looking? Even with them saving their guns there, it's still going to be awkward. Like, they're still going to have to try and force as much as possible on the side of HypHypHyp. Can't even go to 11-11. It shows how there isn't too much to separate these two teams. 1-all, 11-11 would be great way to show how competitive this group is. Been a long day of Valorant. It's been a shift. But it's been fun. And I appreciate all you guys hanging out with me today. First time ever solo casting. It feels almost like a stream than an official cast, but I tried to pace myself with the hype. And there's even more games to come tomorrow. Don't think I'll be casting all 3 of the best of 3 matches, but I'll be bringing the first 2. Fish 123 versus Ford on Bears. Midday CST tomorrow. Fish 123 versus Absolute Legends. 3 PM CEST tomorrow. And I believe Fish 123 versus the final team in that group, which would be Valorando, at 6 PM CEST. So make sure to follow this Twitch channel. Keep up to date with that. Group C and Group D will be played in 2 weeks' time, because obviously the beta will be closed next weekend. And then the game is out. And there's going to be even more tournaments available, but there's still a few more matches to go, even to finish off Group A. Emilio is leading the line, watching his perspective, and Nero 50 is going to be giving away exactly where Emilio is, but it wasn't expecting him to be there, but still manages to get the kill. Korea even dies, so with all of that intel, they're still there, but they weren't expecting Faroff that's actually behind them now. Buying a little bit of time, but Safe is able to sort of bring that up and dies, so 11-11 between the scores, everybody's dead, even the economy looking moderately equal. A few ultimates available on either side. So little to separate the Dream Chasers from HypHypHyp. Even when there's only glory to play for. For the attacking, looking to be headed towards A. Kicker having a really nice sight line. Camera is taken out. Cray is going to move his position as it was given away. The attackers not dedicating to anything as of yet. Dream Chasers equal on score. There's only, what, a few more rounds to go before this is all said and done. Even every second is being used up by both of these teams. Great game to have on in the background. It just doesn't seem to want to end. And that's going to be a good orbital strike. It's going to pretty much get Fear off straight away. And I think even dedicates to Showstopper that hits absolutely nothing. Rolling Thunder 2 coming in from the defenders. And Hip is following on. Knows that there is somebody there. Zad is very hurt and very stunned. Aftershock is going to get to where the spike is. I don't think it's going to do any damage, but Emilio gets a res in, but immediately is chopped down. Safe gets 4. Can't necessarily complete the ace, but Kicker can help. Now we see the Dream Chasers on match point. Bit of a lead lost. Look at this. 4 rounds in a row now. The Dream Chasers have been able to win. But again, we're just seeing it slip out of the hands of Hip, even in a position where they don't need to play for too much now. It's falling out. Like I said, it would go the breadth, it would go the distance. And just at the tip of the post, Dream Chasers being able to win this would be a great sign for them. Good morale, certainly, like I mentioned, but King Cobra doesn't want to die here. It goes down to low and it wants to help with his Sage to get a little bit of healing. Help me, Mum, please. And Kriya, look towards there where there is going to be Kicker holding, has the camera set up yet again. It's just toying with utility. Kriya is going to take out the camera yet again. Need to see what that placement is for that camera, to be honest, because it could be a handy one. I don't think it's out of bounds or anything by the looks of it, and even then, that's, you know, disqualifiable, so we have referees. If Drum could give it a look, see if it's safe, but probably fine, to be honest. I would expect. Fearoff killing the enemy rays, the shadow rays. Kicker now pushing through. This B side of heaven is given up so frequently. It's so difficult to hold from this attack, but there is going to be the Sage here. Law is holding, but can't hold multiple people at multiple angles, but Fearoff can. This is going all the way. Complete overtime. And Hip and the rest are able to sort of clear this on. Economy's reset, ultimate to reset. You can see how much Safe is now starting to pull ahead. Had a really good game in this Brimstone, but it's barely noticeable beforehand. Only the last few rounds have managed to do stuff, but of course this goes all the distance. 12 all.
Right there.
All to play for now. I think the advantage definitely does go to HypHypHyp now as they're playing the defense. The smoke for the Brimstone coming in. So she's going to keep an eye on mid, but that's not really necessarily everything that's happening. Emilio is keeping a close eye, and Craig gets punished for being a bit too aggressive. There's not going to be any resurrect, nothing bringing back, so Emilio is able to play rather passive for now, as the rest is pushing up towards mid. King Cobra is just wanting to maybe pick a few angles, see what they can get done there. Now everybody's going to clamber for this A side. They have the advantage there. Even with reinforcements rotating around, Kriya being down is such a huge loss. And to give this final round the hype it deserves. The plan is coming out, the execute coming through. Stimpak's going to drop down. As the paint shell is going to nullify that. Fearoff actually does get the kill onto Kicker with the spray, and the breach is going to try and flash through in around this corner on the left hand side, but King Cobra is going to aggressively push on through. Don't even think he's hit by the flash. In regards to the remaining defenders, Laura is able to get some stuff done, but does eventually get sprayed down. Emilio is the only one alive. It's a 1 versus 1. This is going to be clutch. The rotation shows that Emilio is going to rotate towards this B site. That's going to be something that Fearoff is aware of knowing. Even down to the individuals, it's not long to even plant. So this slow is going to even screw them up a little bit more, but Fearoff hears the wall. Plant is going to come in, and they can try and aggressively push this as now Emilio needs to back off and give it a bit of space, but it doesn't matter. Emilio's going to get it. And by the skin of their teeth, Dreamchasers win 13-12, 2-1 in the best of 3. Just to confirm, the Hip are not going to be qualifying. Nevertheless, great game to watch. Even when teams had nothing to play for, really, it still was a spectacular way to finish. No 30 frags today, but we did see Save getting close, and I think it might have been Law earlier too that also had an exceptional game, but that does mean, for confirmation, the Dream Chasers and West players are going to be the ones qualifying for Group A. They're going to be going to the quarterfinals, which will be happening in about 3 weeks' time. Who will be joining them? Well, we have the games tomorrow, which is going to be Group B. It's going to feature, as I mentioned, Fish 1, 2, 3, Fordon Bears, Absolute Legends, and Valorando. There's not going to be any tournament next week because the beta is closing down, but will be back up again with the launch of the game on Thursday, the 2nd of June. On the 4th and 5th, we will be seeing the following teams. I figured I'd shout these out as well, just in case you are a fan. We will have the Avengers, or pretty much the start from CS Squad, Existence, IDEX, Maniac, if you're a fan of those guys. They will be playing alongside Everybody Dance. Not actually heard of those guys. Not sure what to expect from them, but we do know that we will be seeing Ninjas in Pajamas, as well as Party Pirates that used to be called Reserve, who are a very good side. Party Pirates versus Ninjas in Pajamas, not a game to miss. 2 weeks' time today. And of course, we have TG4L, Too Good for LAN, that is going to be headed up Group D alongside Fabrican, Prodigy, of course, with Scream and Mixwell, and Royals, which won a tournament last week. Another UK team that is actually not looking too bad in this tournament, but that is going to be it. Dream Chasers winning out the day, winning all of their games in 3-0 fashion, turning a few heads. Biggest surprise of the day, HypHypHyp not qualifying at all. A strong team that didn't even get out of the group stages. What can you say about that? But that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys for watching, even through all of the technical issues that we had. Some long breaks, some long games. That was 53 minutes, that game. So it was a long one to cast, but I enjoyed it. My name is Ryan Central. You can follow me on Twitter. It's in the title of this stream. If you enjoyed my casting, or if you thought that I was absolutely awful, let me know. I don't mind. Good feedback and all that. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. It's going to be midday CEST, the first game. Fish123 versus Fordham Bears. Don't go anywhere. Well, do go anywhere. Don't stick around for 12 hours, man. But see you tomorrow. Make sure you follow and keep up to date with everything. Thanks again to the Spike.gg for supporting this. You can check out all of the stats of the events as they happened on the Spike.gg/events if you want to. You'll see the event there, the EPULZE Valorant Prodigies. You can see exactly how people did. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you tomorrow.